Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Edinburgh University Press. It's one of a series of volumes, and this is actually the first volume in the series. It's got a title, it's Law, Lawyers and Humanism. It's selected essays on the history of Scots law, Volume 1, by John W. Cairns. This is part of the Edinburgh Studies in Law series, Volume 13, and the series editor is Elspeth Christie Reid. It's available as a hardback, PDF and as an e-book. And my wife Elizabeth and I have discussed both this and the companion volume, which we've also reviewed elsewhere, and we've given it a title for our appreciation: Scots Law and English Perspectives, an Insightful Examination. Now, before we do the review, let's just have a look at the book. There it is, it's a hardback. You can see nice red cover at the front, the spine, and then the back, some basic detail. There's nothing on the dust covers on the back or the front. But what we do have is, of course, we have a useful, very detailed index at the back, which is extremely helpful. Then we have a whole range of different articles. You can see there's a lot of footnoting and a lot of detail which comes into it. If we go to the front of the book, you can see the actual front cover. This is the Edinburgh Series in Law list of what's actually available. There's a website at the bottom which gives you some information, and you've got the main front page there. And there's a dedication to Theo and Emily, which is from the author. And then we've got, there's a preface, which is always worth reading, of course. Then you have the detail of the book split into various parts. And in fact, running all the way through, there are 18 in total, ending up at the back with Blackstone, which many English lawyers, I'm sure, will find very interesting. Do read the preface, because it sets the scene, I think, very nicely. Then there's a little acknowledgements page there. Then we get into the introduction. The introduction sets the scene, I think, admirably, and you get some idea from the historic statements made as to where we are today. Then we go into the actual text itself, and it's split. The first part of it is foundation and continuity, and then it starts off going way back, and then running from there, we run all the way through to someone I cannot not mention, and that of course is, when we get to him, Blackstone. There we go. And I say that as an Englishman with Scottish blood in me. Blackstone, an English institutist, legal literature and the rise of the nation state. I thought that was very interesting. More of that in a minute. That's the book anyway. Now, what do we think of this book? Well, Elizabeth and I talked about it, and we said this. We may be disagreed with on this point, but we do believe that every English lawyer should read this book, as we are convinced that every Scots lawyer already has. And I do think that history, English and Scottish legal history, is a very important defining moment, because you've seen what's happened in the past and you need to look at where we're going. What this fascinating 2-volume work does then is it reveals, and this is of course Volume 1, that there are the links and similarities between the common law of England and Wales and Scots law, and they are as interesting as are the differences. And of course there are differences aplenty between the two systems. Now, I make no bones about saying that the common law is probably one of the greatest legal systems that we have, but that does not diminish, as I've said in other reviews, from the tremendous amount of information on the structures of other legal systems themselves, because that is part and parcel, if you like, of the flexibility that we must have as we operate any form of legal system. That's a jurisprudential point of view, but I think it's probably something that comes out of the history of, say, Scots law or English law. So let me continue with our review by saying that this book has been published recently by Edinburgh University Press as part of the Edinburgh Studies in Law series. and it's under the editorship generally of Elspeth Christie Reid. And so both volumes present a collection of essays and articles by Professor John W. Cairns, who holds the chair of civil law at the University of Edinburgh. It's been written in the course of his illustrious and varied career in legal history, and many of these articles have been published outside the United Kingdom and reputedly oft quoted. And there's no surprise there, because there's an awful lot of historic interest, a lot of common sense, of course, in the content. The reader's invited, so to speak, to share Cairns' vision of Scottish legal history, with its focus on the role of the Roman on civil law. Again, that's very interesting, because we don't have Roman law in English law, but they do in Scotland, so of course that in tremendous amount of influence. Comparative lawyers then in particular will discover any number of interesting links, some tenuous, some not, between the Scottish legal system and the England and Wales common law system. Especially worthy of note here, I think, is the final section on Blackstone, which I mentioned before. It contains much commentary on Blackstone, feudalism and institutional writings, because Blackstone really was a tower, certainly within the common law. English lawyers in particular will be interested in the chapter here on professional classification of English common law in the 18th century, and the teachings, of course, of English law in universities at that time is reviewed here. I thought that was very helpful, primarily, of course, at Oxford University, where Sir Robert Chambers succeeded William Blackstone in the Venerian Chair of English Law. Well known and prominent, of course, in his day, Sir Robert Chambers, amongst other achievements, published a course of lectures on the common law in association with none other than Dr. Samuel Johnson. The book then is something of a treasure, replete as it is with a wealth of such revelations and insights. Its main focus is the early modern period and the role, of course, of the Roman or civil law, mainly from the 16th and 17th centuries to the 18th century Enlightenment and beyond, discussing in particular the impact in the 19th century of late Dutch humanism on Scottish lawyers. And you can see here again the influence from Europe, which is very profound in Scotland, I think, and many people don't seem to understand the close Scottish bond that exists there and of course within Europe. England's slightly different for a lot of possibly political and other reasons, but there is that bond, and I think that's something that must always be considered. It's quite openly noticeable even today in 2015. Now, let me conclude by saying this. Like its companion volume 2, which we've reviewed separately, as I've indicated, this book fairly bristles with informed commentary and clear explanation. It's based on copious and careful research and analysis, and is extensively footnoted throughout, as I've shown you. For everyone from comparative lawyers then to legal historians and readers in general, this book offers an unusually broad and quite enthralling perspective on the development of legal education, and as such it's an important acquisition for the Legal Scholars Professional Library. And I will just add, having just attended the day before I do this review the Bar Conference in London for 2015, the issue of legal education was raised by a number of Scottish contributors. I'm not going to mention who, but she, I think you may know who it might be, did make a point about the fact that we do need to certainly identify where we're going with our policies on legal education in the future, as the Bar, which came out of the Conference of England and Wales, does start reviewing the way we operate in this part of the 21st century. Now, that is possibly a knock-on effect from a lot of what we have in this book. So Professor Cairns, thank you very much indeed, and to Edinburgh University Press for this excellent series, and of course the series editor. Thank you. Bye-bye.